Okay, let's just dive straight in. We are dropping you right into a scene of, I mean, just pure drama, high finance, ambition, and a level of intrigue that feels like it's straight out of a thriller.
Absolutely. The setting here is this world of massive, massive wealth, but it's all managed completely behind a shroud of secrecy. And in that world, ambition isn't just a personality trait, it is quite literally a weapon.
And the event that kicks all of this off, the suspicious death of Bill Donovan. He's the chairman of Everest Capital, and his body is just found floating in a stream.
And that discovery, it isn't just a tragedy for the family, it's the starting gun for an absolutely frantic succession battle. I mean, just 3 days later, you have this incredibly controversial vote.
3 days.
Yeah, and that vote decides the entire future of this colossal firm, and it elevates this remarkably young 36-year-old guy, Christian Gillette, to the chairmanship.
And he doesn't win by a landslide. He gets it by the slimmest possible margin, a razor-thin majority of Everest's big money investors.
So, he's on shaky ground from the very first second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to pull back that curtain. We're going to explore how that kind of financial power, that scale, it just inevitably attracts executive intrigue, political manipulation, and as we'll see, multiple genuine attempts at murder.
In this deep dive into Everest Capital, it really shows you the core mandate of private equity. It's about delivering these just huge returns. We're talking 50, 75, even 100% profit a year.
Which is just insane.
It is. And the only way to do that is by maintaining total confidentiality at all costs. That secrecy, it's the engine of their wealth, but it's also their shield.
It's the ultimate high-stakes game.
Yeah.
And the money here, it's not coming from your average person buying stocks.
No, not at all. This is high-risk investment dollars. It's coming from huge institutions like North America Guarantee and Life. They're called NAG, and, the wealthiest families in the world. They're the limited partners, the LPs.
And they hand over these enormous sums of money to people they call financial gunslingers.
Right. People like Gillette. And that relationship is built on two things: the expectation of massive, massive growth, and just as important, complete and total silence about how they get it done.
And when you say massive, we really need to put some numbers on the table to understand the scale we're talking about.
Okay, so let's start with Everest Capital itself. When Bill Donovan first founded the firm, it was, relatively modest. It started with about $25 million in commitments.
A boutique operation, really.
Exactly. But by the time Gillette takes over, it has metastasized. It's this enormous enterprise managing multiple huge funds. They're already running funds through 6. And the most recent one, Fund 7, that alone was $6.5 billion.
So we're already talking about a multi-billion-dollar empire built almost completely in secret. But Gillette, he's not about maintaining the status quo.
Not at all. His first move, the moment he secures the chair, is to announce fundraising for the next one, Everest Capital Partners the 8th. And he sets the initial target at $10 billion.
And even that isn't enough. This is where the stakes just go into the stratosphere. He's pretty quickly forced, by outside pressure we'll get into, to raise that target.
Dramatically. He pushes Fund 8th to a staggering $15 billion.
So if he pulls this off, if he actually raises that much capital, what does that mean for the firm?
It means Everest's total capital under management goes well over $20 billion. And that figure, that doesn't just put them in the global elite. It makes Everest, unequivocally, the most powerful private equity firm in the entire world.
It's almost impossible to wrap your head around that number. $20 billion lets you reshape entire industries. But let's talk about why the partners are willing to, literally kill for control of this firm. It comes down to something called the ups.
The ups, it's the engine of this entire world. It's basically the profit share. It's the massive cut that the general partners, so Everest Capital, they get to keep after the investors, the LPs, have gotten their initial investment back.
And the standard cut is 20%, right?
Yeah, 20%, which is the industry standard. So let's just, run the math on that. You take that $15 billion Fund 8.
Okay.
Let's say they hit that aggressive target Gillette wants, 100% return. They turn that $15 billion into $30 billion over, say, 5 or 7 years.
That's $15 billion in pure profit.
Exactly. And Everest, the firm, keeps 20% of that $15 billion profit. That is $3 billion, flowing directly to a handful of partners, just from that one fund.
Wow.
When Donovan died, the existing ups from the prior funds, it was something like $6 billion to be split among the four remaining partners. That's life-changing generational wealth.
And this is where the chairman's power really becomes absolute, because Gillette, as the new chairman, he gets to decide how the ups from that new, huge Fund 8 are divided up.
He controls everything. It's not just about money, it's about loyalty. It's leverage. He can cement his power by handing out slices of a multi-billion-dollar pie.
So the other partners aren't just jealous, they are terrified of his control over their own financial futures.
And that financial scale is only half the story. You have to understand their actual footprint on the real world.
Right, this isn't just numbers on a screen.
No, Everest is an economic behemoth that runs things. It controls 27 different companies, manufacturing, energy, you name it, and their combined annual sales. Over $80 billion.
And the number of people they employ.
Almost 1 million people worldwide.
1 million. So the chairman of Everest has this incredible degree of influence over huge parts of the global economy. And Gillette's personal power just explodes the second Donovan dies.
Oh, instantly. The firm's operating agreement is ironclad. Gillette automatically inherits all 13 chair positions that Donovan held on the boards of those companies.
And he was already chairing 7 of his own.
Right. So overnight, he finds himself simultaneously chairing 20 different companies.
Just think about that. 20 boardrooms.
Yeah.
20 CEOs who now report directly to him. The CEO of one of these huge companies. They can't make a single major move without Christian Gillette's personal approval.
It's a level of micromanagement and centralized control that really defines that aggressive private equity model. They aren't just advising, they are dictating terms. They have to get those 75% returns.
Okay, so let's get back to the immediate fallout. Gillette gets this promotion, but it's by that razor-thin vote. He steps into this role, surrounded by enemies.
Yeah, powerful, ambitious rivals who feel completely robbed. So this contested, super fast victory, it meant he had to assert dominance immediately.
His former peers, Troy Mason, Ben Cohen, Nigel Faraday, they're still reeling. They're grieving maybe, but they're definitely plotting.
Gillette knew he had to establish the new pecking order right then and there, show them that the time for being partners and colleagues was over.
And there's this perfect, chilling little moment that shows you exactly how he did it. It's right after the funeral. Ben Cohen, one of the other partners, tries to act like they're still friends.
He tries to clap Gillette on the elbow, guide him into the limo, a friendly gesture.
And Gillette just shuts it down, ice cold.
He snaps at him. "Take your hand off me. And Ben, from now on, call me Christian."
Wow. Just that simple command. It's psychological warfare.
Totally. He's instantly establishing that the old equality is gone. It's a signal, I'm in charge, and any attempt at familiarity will be punished.
It perfectly sets the tone. And this whole world, whether it's raising a $15 billion fund or just managing your own partners, it's all governed by this one single hard and fast rule about negotiation.
A rule Gillette understands better than anyone. It's that the advantage always belongs to the one who appears to want it less.
So if you desperately want something, a deal, a company, loyalty, you're showing a weakness.
And it will be exploited.
Yeah.
So by forcing Cohen to call him Christian, by showing zero emotion, he's communicating that the chairmanship wasn't some prize he was fighting for. It was just an administrative detail. He wants nothing, so he can take everything.
Establishing the dominance also meant he had to clean house. He had to purge anyone who was underperforming, and more importantly, anyone he thought was a threat.
So the transition period immediately becomes this campaign of just brutal executive decisions. Let's start with the firing of Roger Nolan.
A very public, very spectacular firing.
Nolan was the CEO of Blalock Industries, a big power tool company Everest owned. And look, on paper, the firing was justified. Blalock was doing $3 billion in revenue, but only $21 million in net income.
Which is a terrible margin.
It's awful. And Nolan's compensation was egregious. His salary bonus was nearly $5 million. That's almost a quarter of the company's entire earnings.
He was basically running it as his own personal piggy bank. Still, when Gillette fires him, Nolan is outraged. He's threatening lawsuits, breach of contract.
But Gillette doesn't just fire him. He absolutely annihilates his leverage. And this is where we see the dark, weaponized side of Everest's reach.
Through Tom McGuire's investigation firm, McGuire & Company.
Which, and this is the critical part, is owned by Everest.
So wait, Everest Capital owns its own private investigation firm. It's like having an in-house blackmail department.
That's exactly what it is. And Gillette uses McGuire and company to dig up something devastating on Nolan's son.
They find out he's dealing cocaine at college.
And worse, they have video of it. This personal, ugly secret. It becomes the ultimate lever.
So what's the deal?
The deal is, Nolan accepts this tiny severance package, $100,000 a year for 3 years, and in exchange, Gillette uses his connections to make the whole legal problem with the son just disappear.
It's an impossible choice. Your career or your son's future. It's a chilling display of power that goes way beyond the boardroom.
It shows you that for these guys, the boundaries of control just don't exist. But firing Nolan, that was just a warm-up. The main event was getting rid of Gillette's primary rival, Troy Mason.
Mason was Donovan's guy. Everyone expected him to be the next chairman.
And his removal was swift and absolutely devastating. He was fired for officially sexual harassment risk.
Right, the incident at Donovan's funeral reception. He was caught in a compromising position with an employee, Kathy Hayes.
In a basement bedroom, yeah. Gillette gets tipped off, catches him in the act. The story goes that he later forces Mason out of the car, just leaves him on the side of the road. Public humiliation.
But as the source material shows us, this was no accident.
Oh, not at all. Mason was set up. The employee, Kathy Hayes, was coerced into luring him into that trap with a massive financial incentive and blackmail. She got a $250,000 upfront payment.
$250,000.
Plus $25,000 a month ongoing, and the leverage they had on her. A long-buried college arrest for prostitution.
This reveals a truly sophisticated, pre-planned operation just to eliminate one guy. Mason was the single biggest threat to Gillette, and the conspirators were willing to spend $500,000 and use a decade-old secret to take him out.
It just proves that in this environment, secrets are the most valuable currency there is.
So with his main rival, Mason, gone, Gillette has to move fast to shore up support inside the firm. You've got these two really talented managing directors, Kyle LaForce and Marcy Reed.
And they're already getting huge offers from other firms. Everyone wants to poach Everest's talent, while the firm looks unstable.
So to stop them from leaving, Gillette uses that ultimate financial weapon, the ups.
It's a masterful move. He promotes both of them to managing partner and gives each of them a 5% share of the upside from the new $15 billion fund.
It's a great way to buy loyalty, but it has to come from somewhere.
Right. That 10% total share he just gave away, it comes directly out of the pockets of the other two partners, Ben Cohen and Nigel Faraday.
Who were already furious about being passed over. And now their potential billions are being diluted.
The reaction was explosive. Especially from Nigel Faraday. He was known for having this terrible temper fueled by a lot of scotch. He actually confronts Gillette in his office. He physically lunges at him.
And this is where we get this fascinating look into Gillette's past. Faraday's a big guy, but Gillette just handles him.
Effortlessly. We find out Gillette has Green Beret training. He uses this swift, controlled military move, catches Faraday by the throat, slams his face against the wall, just completely subdues him.
It's not just about winning a fight, it's a message.
A very clear one. He warns him, don't let the spatch talk you into a mistake. He's signaling that his control is absolute, and any future challenge, physical or otherwise, will be met with overwhelming and calculated force.
But these internal battles were happening at the same time as these escalating external threats. Real life-threatening attacks.
The threats were immediate. First, you have the limo explosion at the funeral. Gillette immediately saw that as a warning shot, meant to scare him off, not necessarily to kill him.
But then it gets much more serious.
Much more. The second incident is a shooting outside the home of Jose Medilla.
And Medilla's a loyal factory worker.
And Gillette had helped.
Right. Relocated his family, supported him financially.
Exactly. So this was an escalation. They weren't just targeting Gillette anymore. They were targeting an asset, someone he actually cared about.
And these threats, they forced Gillette to rethink his security. Specifically, the head of the firm's security, Tom McGuire.
He realizes he just can't trust the internal team. McGuire works for Everest, so his loyalty is to the partnership, or, whoever's paying him the most. Gillette needs someone with unimpeachable loyalty to him personally.
So he hires Quentin Stiles.
Top of the line. Stiles is former Secret Service, runs his own firm, QS Security. His clients are people like Madonna, Michael Jordan. This is serious professional protection.
And it's not cheap. Stiles costs $5,000 a day.
And that decision to spend that kind of money on an outsider, it's all driven by Gillette's profound distrust of Tom McGuire.
Which brings us back to Gillette's core philosophy, the thing that explains almost everything he does.
He says it himself. I don't really trust anyone because sooner or later, everyone will let you down. It's this belief that's rooted in the trauma of his father's death and his mother's suicide.
So for him, paying $5,000 a day for a bodyguard isn't paranoia. It's just a cold, logical operating expense. He accepts that betrayal is just part of the game when billions are on the line. Okay, we've set up the internal power plays, the purges, the external threats. Now we need to peel back the layers on this truly staggering conspiracy that was designed to destroy both Everest and Gillette.
And it all starts with the biggest rivalry in private equity, Everest versus Apex Capital, which was run by a guy named Paul Strassi.
And Strassi and Bill Donovan, the old chairman, they were bitter rivals, right?
Fierce rivals, going all the way back to their days at Morgan Stanley. Everest and Apex were always fighting for that #1 spot. And right when Gillette takes over, Strassi is already out there raising his own $10 billion fund. A clear move to try and claim dominance.
But this rivalry, it just becomes the playing field for the real puppet masters, and that's where Miles Whitman comes in.
Whitman is the chief investment officer of NAG North America Guarantee in Life. They are Everest's single largest investor. And he's the one who forces Gillette to up the ante to raise the target for Fund 8 from $10 billion to $15 billion.
What was his reasoning for that?
The official reason was market efficiency. He argued the market couldn't support two competing $10 billion funds, but it could support one giant $15 billion fund. But really, it was about forcing a winner-take-all fight to the death. And
that move, coming from their biggest backer, that's the first major piece of external manipulation we see.
But the real key to controlling Everest was controlling the 25% voting bloc held by Ann Donovan, the widow.
A stake worth over $4 billion.
And Strassi, along with his political ally, Senator Stockman, they immediately conspire to scare her into selling it.
How do they do that?
Ann Donovan is already fragile, and they start leaking rumors about instability at Everest. Then Strassi meets with her directly and makes an offer, $2 billion for her stake.
Which is low, but it's cash.
Exactly. $1.5 billion in cash right away, plus a $500 million note. He's exploiting her fear and her desire for immediate, clean liquidity.
If she sells, the balance of power shifts completely.
Yeah.
But to really make Everest look like it's about to collapse, they needed political ammunition.
Which brings us to Senator George Stockman.
Stockman is running for president, and he had a deep personal grudge against Bill Donovan. Donovan had found out something damaging about him and had vowed to spend a ton of money to wreck his campaign.
So for Stockman, this is about revenge, but it's also about preemptively neutralizing a huge threat to his political future.
And his weapon against Everest is this massive IPO they did for a company called Dominion Savings and Loan. It was a blockbuster deal. Everest made $1.8 billion in profit on a $200 million investment.
But Stockman is threatening to expose it as fraudulent.
The allegation is that Everest defrauded public investors. They allegedly hid how bad the loan portfolio really was right before they took the company public. So they basically pumped up the company with a bunch of junk loans to make it look good for the IPO, cashed out for a huge profit, and left public investors holding a ticking time bomb.
It's corporate fraud on a massive scale. And Stockman threatens to use his Senate position to launch a huge investigation that would cripple Everest.
And when Gillette confronts him, Stockman finally cracks. Because Gillette has his own leverage, right?
Right. Gillette knows about Stockman's affair with a woman named Rita Jones. Under that pressure, Stockman gives up his source, the insider at Everest who is feeding him all the details about the Dominion fraud.
And the back channel is confirmed to be Marcy Reed.
The very same managing director Gillette just promoted and gave 5% of the new fund to. Reed and Donovan were the only two who knew the real depth of the fraud. She was funneling the info to Stockman and Strassi to pin the whole thing on the dead Donovan, clearing her own name and destabilizing Gillette at the same time.
Okay, so the discovery of Marcy Reed as the mole, it confirms this coordinated attack. But Stockman and Strassi, for all their power, they're just pawns.
They're just the front men. The true mastermind, astonishingly, is Miles Whitman, the CIO of NAG, Everest's biggest investor, the guy who pushed for the $15 billion fund in the first place.
And his motivation wasn't about power, it was about survival.
Pure financial survival. He was secretly hiding these colossal losses, over $5 billion, from bad, unauthorized investments he'd made. He was desperate to cover that up before the NAG board found out.
And his whole scheme to cover that $5 billion hole revolves around one single undervalued Everest asset, a company called Laurel Energy.
Right. Everest held these option properties in Canada, and Whitman had secretly discovered they contained just vast, untapped oil and gas reserves. The source material calls it the mother lode.
So if he could get Laurel Energy on the cheap, he could flip it for billions, cover his losses, and look like a genius.
Exactly. But to keep it cheap, he had to make sure Everest thought the properties were worthless. And to do that, he had to resort to murder.
This is where it gets incredibly dark.
Whitman orchestrated the murder of the Laurel Energy seismic manager. He had the guy's vehicle tampered with so it would break down in a remote area. A conspirator then killed him, and his body was later found in a lake.
And the result of that?
The result was that false seismic reports were generated, reports that showed the Laurel field was pretty dry, basically worthless.
So Whitman's ultimate goal was never for Gillette to succeed long-term.
Never. He backed Gillette over Mason because he knew Gillette was ruthless enough to fire Mason and clean house. But Gillette was always meant to be temporary.
Whitman's long game was to get Ben Cohen, the quiet numbers guy, installed as chairman after Gillette was removed.
Cohen would be his puppet. He'd be easily convinced by the fake seismic reports to sell Laurel to Whitman's shell company, Coyote Oil, for next to nothing. And that cheap asset was the key to Whitman covering his entire $5 billion mess.
I mean, that is a conspiracy of just staggering depth. So the moment Gillette finally puts all these pieces together, his counterattack is just swift and ruthless. He starts by cleaning house.
First target, Marcy Reed, the mole. He uses Stockman's coerced confession to confirm her role. But the final nail in her coffin is when they find the email from her computer that set up the whole Troy Mason situation with Kathy Hayes.
That proves she was a long-term, strategic trader. She's fired on the spot.
Then he moves on to Kyle LaForce. LaForce trying to play dumb, but Gillette figures out he knew way more about the whole conspiracy, especially about the fake low-ball offer for Laurel Energy, so he's fired too.
And both of them are apprehended shortly after, right?
That's right. And finally, Ben Cohen, the quiet partner who suddenly starts acting differently.
He stops trusting his spreadsheets and starts talking about his gut, pushing Gillette really hard to sell Laurel to Coyote Oil, insisting the offer was real.
And Gillette connects the dots. Cohen sold out. He made a deal with Whitman. In exchange for the chance to finally be chairman, even if it was as a puppet, he'd help get rid of Gillette and sell off the firm's most valuable asset.
And while he's cleaning house internally, the entire external conspiracy starts to just shatter. Because Paul Strozzi is assassinated.
Yeah, while he's jogging in Central Park, he had a very predictable routine, made him a soft target. The killer, likely the same one who got Donovan, pretends to be a fellow runner, helps him, and then shoots him at close range.
And Strozzi's death has this huge immediate consequence for Everest.
A huge one. Anne Donovan, the widow, she immediately cancels the sale of her stake. Strozzi was the one driving that whole thing. With him gone, her reason to sell just evaporates, and Everest's ownership structure is saved.
So the focus then shifts squarely to the last man standing, Tom McGuire.
The compromised head of security. It becomes clear he was working for Strozzi, he was complicit in Donovan's murder, and he was the one meant to ensure Gillette was killed.
And their final confrontation is just... did something else. Gillette has to go completely outside the law.
Completely. When the final assassination attempt on Gillette fails, McGuire, in a fit of rage, tries to kill Gillette himself at this remote cabin. But Gillette is ready for him.
He's prepared a counterattack using his one truly loyal asset, Jose Medilla, the factory worker.
Gillette has Medilla kidnap Tom McGuire's brother, Vince.
So with Vince as a hostage, Gillette calls Tom McGuire while the cabin is literally burning around him. It's a brutal ultimatum. You call off the attack and disappear forever, or your brother dies.
And it works. The McGuire brothers vanish. Miles Whitman vanishes. The entire conspiracy is just neutralized from the core outward.
But to get the space he needs to really consolidate power and execute his plans, Gillette pulls off his most dramatic move yet.
He stages his own death. He's declared DOA, dead, on arrival at the hospital. A fact that his enemies quickly confirm through their own channels. They think he's gone.
And that staged death, it gives him the clean slate he needs. It buys him the silence to make his next move.
Which is to immediately confirm the true value of Laurel Energy. He orders new seismic tests, but this time under intense, almost military-grade security.
And the results?
The results confirm it. Vast reserves. The mother lode. Whitman's entire deception is exposed, and the firm is saved from being defrauded of billions.
So with the traders gone, his security in place, and the true value of Laurel on the books. Gillette looks to the future. He's going to raise that full $15 billion.
But his ambition doesn't stop there. He announces his next target. He says he's going to buy Apex, Scrassi's old firm.
Just a pure act of dominance, wiping the rivalry off the map.
And in a really calculated move, he makes sure that the loyalty he did find is rewarded.
He goes to Quentin Stiles, the bodyguard who was injured, protecting him.
And he makes him an offer he can't refuse. He offers to hire Stiles permanently as head of security. He'll finance his entire company, QS Security, and take all the administrative headaches away. It's not a transaction based on trust. It's based on proven reliability.
And in Gillette's world, a reliable asset is the most valuable thing you can have.
So after all of that, the betrayals, the murders, the finance, what's the core lesson here from this whole Everest Capital saga?
It seems chillingly simple. In the pursuit of what they call extraordinary financial gain, unconditional trust is just. It's non-existent.
Every single player, Mason, Marcy Reed, Cohen, McGuire, Stockman, Whitman, they were all driven by money and ambition. And that led, inevitably, to betrayal.
It didn't matter what it was. Selling corporate secrets, setting up a rival, orchestrating a murder to hide your own mistakes.
Yeah.
The stakes were so high that loyalty, integrity, it all just dissolved.
Even Senator Stockman's political maneuvering, which started as revenge, it just quickly became another financial lever to try and control a $4 billion asset. Everything got monetized.
And yet, through it all, Christian Gillette maintains this icy, almost inhuman focus on business. He refuses to waste time on personal vendettas.
He literally tells Stockman, I don't have time for revenge. His focus is on scaling Everest, raising that $15 billion and consuming his rivals. Survival was just a means to an end.
And that end was pure, undisputed dominance.
But the sources, they really leave you with this profound, lingering question. We know Gillette's whole worldview, his absolute distrust of everyone. It comes from this deep, unresolved trauma, his father's suspicious death, his mother's suicide.
So, you have to ask yourself, is his relentless pursuit of power and wealth just pure ambition? Or is it actually a defense mechanism? Is he trying to build a fortress of money and control around himself to protect himself from a world he fundamentally believes will always try to betray or kill him?
And what's the limit of that kind of self-reliance, especially when the stakes are $20 billion and the price of failure is your own life? It's a terrifying thought that the people at the very top of our economy might be driven by these kinds of deep, unresolved issues.